All right, what's happening, friends? Here with Kevin, my boy, who's the market leader for NFM. We're just going to take some time today and talk about, and this is for the agent, the either young or newer aspiring agent that wants to grow their business, or the young aspiring loan officer who wants to take their business to the next level. We're just going to have a conversation, kind of go back and forth and answer some questions and talk about some of our lessons learned, our philosophies, because really, all it takes to be successful out there is to find the right people that have done it and emulate what they do, right? And so just to give you some context, Kevin, how long have you been doing this and how many loans have you closed in your career?
Wow, so I started I closed my first loan in 1999. At this point in my career, my total volume is somewhere around $2 billion in personal production. Team production is obviously a little bit bigger than that. I'd say if I had to guess, we've closed somewhere around 5,000 to 10,000 families, something like that.
Okay. So, and you've seen it all, right? The crash of the early 2000s, the run up of the post-COVID years, the interest rate hikes. I mean, so really good perspective, I think, right? Through all the years. And for me, I haven't been doing this as long, but since 2015, I've been doing it full time, did kind of 3 years as an individual agent. You can look up my story in other places, but have since come to EXP in 2019, basically was our first year. And we went from just a small kind of group of friend team to one of the top 5 teams in the entire country. We'll do probably close to 800 sales just this year. So we've kind of seen a lot of stuff, right? And so people always ask us, we come to these events, people ask, how do you guys do this? And what are you guys doing? And so I kind of wanted to just scale that all back because that's very intimidating, right? If you look at somebody who's done, billions of dollars in loan volume, or somebody's doing hundreds of home sales, I always felt like when I go to events, I was like, that's so unattainable. It's so out of reach that I just need to know today as an agent that wants to get to selling 20 homes, what do I gotta do, right? So if you're a young agent or a young, loan officer and you want to get to, what is, and let's give some perspective. What is like a pretty above average loan officer close a year? How many loans do they close?
I think, in the current marketplace, I think if you're closing 3 to 5 loans a month, that's a really quality career. That's really where you want to be.
So if I'm closing 1 loan a month and I want to get to 3, what's the first action I need to take?
It's a great question,
to implement?
This is really where we specialize. So if you're closing 1 loan a month, I think the first thing you need is, success leaves clues. And you need to be working on some kind of team or around some kind of top producers that can help you structure your day, identify who you need to be talking to in the marketplace, identify what strategies work and don't, and really run someone else's play for at least the first couple years there in order for you to kind of bridge that gap. Because where rookie loan officers run into trouble a lot is they run into trouble with knowing who to call, they run into trouble with what to say, and they run into trouble with how to structure their day for maximum sales results.
So what I'm hearing is a simple answer to that is be around somebody who's done it.
Yep.
Period. Right? I mean, and hopefully that person actually will share information with you. Be around someone who's done it who will share information with you, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And the one thing I would add is that you want to make sure, the reason that you want to be around someone who's done it is for the experience, but also you need fantastic operational support to succeed in the mortgage business. The mortgage business is a resources game. And so without that.
Okay, so stop there. Define what operational support means, because maybe if I don't know any better, I'm new to the business, what am I even looking for? If you're telling me you need great operational support, what the hell does that mean?
So great question. So the big line there for me is, what does the loan officer do on a mortgage transaction versus what does the operations team do?
Okay.
So what are you responsible for? I think that the loan officer job is hard enough and should be very sales focused and not necessarily so paperwork focused.
Okay, define what does sales mean. So if you should be sales focused,
you should be spending the majority of your day having conversations with people who can refer you people to get a mortgage, or with people who actually need a mortgage. That's what sales is. That should be the main part of your day. Those 2 types of conversations: clients and referral sources.
So contacts. You should be out there making contacts.
You should be out there making contacts. And anything that prevents you from doing those things that is seen by some companies as the loan officer job is what you should be trying to be avoiding, and that's what I mean by operational support.
Give me some specific examples of that. What should I as a loan officer not be focused on doing?
You shouldn't be focused on gathering paperwork. You shouldn't be focused on disclosing your own loans. You shouldn't be focused on babysitting active transactions. You shouldn't be focused on it being your main job to make sure the loan closes on time, where you have to kind of run overwatch over the transaction, make sure everyone's doing their job. That should be handled operationally by either the loan team or the company.
So this is crazy because there's so many parallels. This is probably why we get along and we see eye to eye on so many things. Is I recognized as a young real estate agent who just by pure hard work and grind got to the point where I was doing 20, 25 transactions a year, which is pretty solid in our market. It's that's definitely a way above average agent. But I recognize that it was like an insane business model where I was doing everything. I was coming up with the marketing ideas. I was running the Facebook ads. I would then intake the lead and have to call that person and know what to say to get them to become a client. Then I would have to get in a car and show them around. And then I would have to write a contract. And then once we got it under contract, and then I would have to manage the transaction throughout and then send out stuff out for signatures and file paperwork. And I just thought to myself,
handle the pile of rubbish on the side of the yard.
Oh yeah, clean up the house, the stuff the seller didn't take, before we close. And I thought to myself, well, this is, I get it, and we're making a pretty good living and this is fun, but I'm never gonna get beyond doing 25 or 30 transactions without driving myself absolutely insane. And so I think what we're talking about here in two different but similar examples is that if you wanna scale beyond kind of what your personal physical time allows for, you gotta have a system in place, right? You got to have operational support is kind of what you're talking about. And I guess at the end of the day, that's basically what we provide too, is operational support to agents so they can focus on going out there and acquiring clients, showing them property, getting them on a contract, and then moving on and continuing to do that and not focus on the day-to-day activities. So,
and in the mortgage business, you'll find too, a lot of times people are busy as loan officers hunting for expertise or trying to be a loan expert. When, if realtors and clients wanted to talk to the ultimate authority on loans, they would talk to the underwriter, and loan officers wouldn't exist. Right. So you really have to look at kind of the modern definition of what a loan officer is, and it's not so much a man or woman sitting at a desk waiting for someone to come in and order a mortgage. It's more so helping clients and realtors, leading them to their bigger future, understanding what their problems are, helping them with their day-to-day, and then relying on really smart people to help you with the mortgages.
So let's talk about overcoming the mindset of I'm the best person to do this job, because you're telling me what you're talking about means that I'm gonna have to trust 3 or 4 other people to do certain parts of this business and take care of my client, but nobody does a better job than me, Kevin. How can I possibly trust people to do that?
Well, the example I always use for this is one time I needed to get some stitches here on my face, and I made a big deal about having the doctor do it versus the nurse. And to make a long story short, the nurse kind of told me, hey, here's the deal. I stitch up 40 faces a day, and the doctor doesn't ever do it. So we can have him do it if you want me to, or you can just rely on me. And I was making the mistake that the doctor, because they're the highest paid or they're the team leader.
Their name's on the door.
Their name's on the door, right? Their name's on the door, so they're the one that should be doing it. But really, it's the nurse that's the expert at this kind of activity, and I should be trusting her. So that I always use the example of doctor and nurse, because the doctor has a very clear place and the nurse has a very clear place. And real estate and mortgages is very similar when done the correct way. But a lot of times, what you were saying, where they expect either the realtor or the loan officer in our case to be the everything except the notary and the appraiser. That you're never going to be able to scale to a point of success, because you're not an expert at anything.
And the thing I've discovered along the way, I mean, you're completely right, is that you have to get beyond the ego of I'm better at doing it than everybody else, because I can guarantee you are wrong, right? You are not the best at doing every part of the business. Personally, I completely suck at following paperwork and putting together a timeline and making sure things are done on the due date. I need somebody to babysit me to make sure that I'm making those things happen, because that's not my skill set. It's not what my brain is wired to do. And I found myself failing and not serving my clients at a high level because I was trying to do something that I just wasn't naturally good at, or I didn't enjoy. And maybe if I put more time and energy, I could. But then you got to make the decision: is my time better spent out there making valuable content for clients to then see us online and choose us as their agent, and then we can help more people because I'm providing them valuable content via marketing, versus if I'm trying to file every single piece of paperwork and send every single piece of paper out for signatures, which is not a valuable, or it's not a high return on investment activity. And once you can get over that mindset of I have to do it, and you trust somebody else, you find out that, oh my goodness, we were just on a meeting, and everybody on the team is praising the transaction coordinator team, because we have a amazing group of ladies who are just focused on doing one thing, and that's getting your transaction in a clean and organized fashion to closing and making sure your client is served, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And when agents realize that these ladies are doing 50, 60 of these a month, if you do 10 a year, they're getting 5 times the experience that you have in 1 month that it takes you all year. There is no way, I don't care how good you think you are, you're better than them at it. No way. I would bet my house every single day that our team is better at coordinating a transaction than any agent ever will be, because it just by sheer volume, they're doing 500 of these a year. There's no way you're better at it. So that's a huge limiting factor, right? Mindset.
Or take, for example, our pre-approval managers, so our a pre-approval manager on a really high volume team is pre-approving anywhere from 5 to 30 loans a day, right? 30 being an absolute outlier, 5 being pretty typical. So if you think about the amount of experience they get against the typical loan officer who's pre-approving 5 people a month, every day they're doing their month, they're just light years ahead of the typical loan officer because of how many pre-approvals they do and how much they live in that work of updating borrowers, making little changes, getting letters out, and helping agents with the terms when they're writing the offers. It's very difficult as a solo loan officer to ever compete with that quality of service, because you have so many other things to do. You have to go generate the leads that become the pre-approvals. So exactly the same in both industries.
Totally. And I always, this is a harsh reality, but I always share with our agents, right? If you're spending your time behind your computer doing paperwork and managing a transaction, your client is watching me on Facebook, and next time they do a transaction, guess who they're thinking about? They're thinking about me. They're not thinking about you that was on your computer when you could have been spending that time creating valuable content for your clients to retain them and then acquire new ones. And so you're really putting yourself at a humongous disadvantage by believing that you have to do those things, and you're actually just not serving your client at the highest level possible, right?
Absolutely. So, Dylan's, I think right now, the top EXP team in the nation. Many houses being sold today.
Number 3 year to date. Right, yes, number 3, yeah.
And already today we've had several closings on my loan team, and we're here doing this podcast. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so what are some principles around scaling that somebody has to think about? And I'll share what first one to kind of get the juices flowing, right? Is I always talk about, you gotta build for where you're going, not where you're at, right? And so if you have a plan to build a bigger business and you wanna scale and you wanna double your production, you gotta start hiring people and building systems to anticipate the growth, because if you wait till you're getting there and you really need it, now you don't have the time to actually build the system or hire the person, and then it's just a vicious cycle where you never get there because you never have the system in place, so you never can scale beyond it. So for me, building for where you're going versus where you're at is a very, very important concept. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. You got to spend money before you know you have it. You got to make some investment in time and effort, which doesn't feel super comfortable, but that's the only way to get to the next level. So on your side of it, what are some kind of mindset principles that you kind of see that you got to prepare for?
My favorite question. So, loan officers, get your pen and paper out. This is the secret. The first hire you need to make in order to scale as a loan officer is a person that can take you from contract to close. That's the first thing that'll eliminate the most busy work out of your life, eliminate the most stress. And one of the big reasons I suggest getting with a big team or getting with somebody that's been there before is a lot of teams offer that to loan officers, without you having to pay for it or give up commission for it.
Mm-hmm.
That to me should always be part of the game. After you've got that, what you're going to do is you're going to use that more time to build more relationships, do better with your database, find more real estate agents, and from there you're going to find out that you have too many leads and too many pre-approvals. So your next hire after that is somebody to work on pre-approvals for you while you continue to generate leads. Then once the leads get to be so unmanageable, you need somebody to help you handle those leads. So that's like the basic framework for a mortgage team. And then when you can just add to those positions in order to handle an unlimited amount of volume.
That makes sense.
Yep. And take fantastic care of the clients.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's always, I think that's a huge, mindset also that people have to focus on. Is a lot of people want to scale and grow so they can do less work, or so they don't have to deal with clients anymore, or whatever. They have these weird kind of thought processes behind, I'm gonna grow a big team so I can just like spend all day at the beach. And it's like, we've talked about in the past, you just work as hard doing something else. Like, you never get away from the work if you're gonna do it right.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I might upset some people, but I don't really believe in the topic, this whole recurring revenue or financial freedom or sit on the beach while the checks roll in, because it's, from my experiences, that's really not where you end up. The reason if you have a team, that there's two temptations. Temptation number one, go spend more time with your children so that you don't, because you've got all these people helping you out now. Well, what happens is you're not generating the leads. The next thing you know, your team starts to shrink and go away.
Yes.
Right. So then you end up back where you were. So you have to keep the pipeline full, and the only way that you can do that in both real estate and in mortgage is to continually be out there prospecting, which is the highest and best use of your time.
So let's talk about prospecting. You said prospecting. So what are a couple of tips, or maybe the one thing that, best piece of advice that you have when it comes to prospecting? Because a lot of times I feel like that's like a philosophical word.
Sure.
It's like add value. People like throw these words out there and they don't define what the hell they mean or what you should actually do. So Kevin, you're a new loan officer, you should go prospect. What does that mean?
Another terrific question. The first thing you need when you're prospecting is a clear vision of what success looks like. So you need to know how many phone calls you need to make each week and how many appointments you need to go see. I always say the primary predictor of real estate or mortgage success and paychecks is appointment volume, how many appointments you can have. So you need to figure out how many phone calls you need to make to have how many appointments, and then you need to track those numbers on a weekly basis. So let's say a new loan officer should be making somewhere around 1 hour of phone calls a day. That's probably about 50 talk-tos. Those 50 talk-tos should boil down into something like 10 appointments or something like that for the next week. And those 10 appointments, some are going to be new people, some are going to be people you already know, but that's where you start to get those relationships. I think if you want some foundational metrics for being a loan officer, you're going to want about 35 active agents, and shoot me a DM or an email. I'll define active agent for you. You're going to want to have about 3 pre-approvals a week, and you're going to want to have 3 actualized new agent meetings every week, meaning they happened. So you're going to want to meet 3 brand new realtors every week. You want to pre-approve 3 loans, and you're going to want to have about 35 active agents working with you. That's a banger of a business.
So when you said in the beginning you got to make 50 phone calls, but you're talking to real estate agents.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Because for me, the successful model is helping real estate agents get where they're going in order, and then helping them with their clients. There's going to be a whole separate piece of that. A difference between, I think, where you're going with this is a difference between real estate and mortgages. For a realtor, that prospecting looks like calling people in your database, calling past leads, calling active clients. You're working directly with the client.
Yep.
Where a difference is with the mortgage business, we're working with realtors who are working with clients in order to mutually help with that group. So you should have lead follow-up as a daily ritual. You should have a daily prospecting hour. You should have daily lead follow-up as a loan officer, meaning where you're calling the clients. And then you also need time, of course, to take your loan apps and do that stuff.
So your prospecting target is not necessarily people who need a mortgage. They're people who are helping people get a mortgage.
Correct.
That's important to understand.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, because in the way a lot of loan officers think the business works is, there you are, you're up at KTA there, and you see a guy and you say, oh my gosh, Dylan, I haven't seen you since Conawana senior year. What are you doing? Oh my God, you're buying a house? Well, I'm a mortgage guy. You should get a loan.
Yeah.
This is how they think the business works. And it doesn't necessarily work that way.
And then I say, oh no, that's all right, Kevin. My realtor already recommended his mortgage broker to me, and then you don't get that business, right?
You just can't do enough loans that way because you don't meet enough people.
It's too random.
It's how a lot of people think it works, but it's too low volume.
You're really, and that's a cool thing about the mortgage business that I envy, is that you're much more shooting fish in a bucket,
Yes.
right? Like the bucket is the realtor, and the realtor has a bunch of fish swimming around, and all you got to do is get the realtor to give you access to the bucket, and then you got all of this business where he describes it great. He calls us, we fly fish in the ocean, right? Realtors are out there in the middle of the sea, throwing our fly out there and just hoping that there's something in the ocean that bites, right? Versus he just comes to the bucket and looks in and says, I'll take that one and that one. And so you have to understand your target audience. I think is a big misunderstanding, which agents have too. I think a lot of agents get into the business with no realistic expectation of what it takes to actually generate business, and they think like, I'm gonna get my real estate license, and then real estate company's gonna hire me. I'm gonna sit at a desk, and then like contracts will pop up, and I'm just gonna have to go do business, which we know is absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, absolutely not the case.
Well, isn't it a little bit of the same way though with realtors, where you're you don't know where if you're just planning on going to KTA and bumping into your buddy and getting a loan or getting a transaction,
Yep.
or going to church, it's not enough.
No, there's no way just through your interactions in life you can meet enough people and have enough conversations to sustain you might be able to sustain a barely sustainable real estate business if you're in a good market where if you do 5 or 6 deals a year, you make 50 or 60 grand. But again, you could just go work, at Costco and push carts for 50 grand a year. I mean, so you don't have to work as hard and have all of the instability. There's really not, it's not worth the stress and instability to be making what you could make if you just go work in KTA and bag groceries or whatever, which you can do nowadays.
Agree.
Yeah, this is some good stuff. So we're talking about prospecting. What about just general lead generation? What have you seen? Okay, so you've worked with like literally thousands of realtors over your career. What would you say is, seeing, because there's 100 different ways to generate leads in the real estate side. What are the best practices or the most effective ways that you've seen realtors generate leads that you look at and say, hey, that's a realtor I want to work with because they got a solid lead flow business?
I think that, like if I was to become a realtor, I was, the successful things I've seen over the years, it has to do a lot with your conversations and how many conversations you have. I think that a lot of the successful agents, they're in either groups or companies or, collections of people where they're seen as a big contributor, and they're constantly making everybody aware and having real estate conversations. I mean, what's your rule about how many real estate conversations you should be having a day?
At least 5.
Yeah.
5 quality conversations, like an actual, not just like, hey Kevin, you want to buy real estate? No, and then hang up. Like an actual like engagement on the subject.
We're planning on doing this when the baby comes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, that to me is the ability to have real estate conversations consistently to groups of people. And the groups of people can be, I mean, from one end of the spectrum to the other. They don't have to be like super high level charity organizations or those kinds of things. It can be your church, it can be your school, it can be the baseball team. It's just being seen as the community realtor. I always call it like the mayor of your group of friends. Mm-hmm. That to me is the time-honored way to organically grow. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to get leads, but organic growth, that's because so many real estate agents, I mean, how many people get their license and then instantly start trying to sell houses to strangers?
Right.
Versus their collection of friends and family who love them and trust them.
Yep.
I think to me that's the
much low barrier to entry. Yeah. Way easier.
People already like them.
Okay, so let's wrap up with, we always hear people talking about you got to be valuable, you got to add value, and we just talked about how the target audience for the loan officer is the realtor, and then obviously the realtor's target audience is the general public who is interested in buying or selling real estate. And so how do you approach, and this is something I've always liked about your approach, is how do you approach providing value to your realtor partners and friends?
So the first,
as opposed to, I'm gonna preference this with, like, if you're a loan officer watching this, right? Stop doing this. Like, stop calling calling me and saying, "Hey, I got a great new program on duplexes. It's 7% down." Blah, blah, blah. Like, I could care less about your loan program. It provides me with no value, because anybody who's out there, I can just call them and say, "Hey, I want you to do this deal," and they're gonna tell me yes or no. Like, I don't need to know about it. I don't need to be a loan expert. So please stop going to presentations and telling people about the new, low down payment program or whatever crazy stuff that you have, because I can guarantee you, a good realtor doesn't care. So anyways, now that we've said that being said, that is not adding value. I've defined what value is not to a high producing realtor. What is value?
To me, the answer is super funny. To me, the answer to how you can provide value to somebody is not something that should be defined by the loan team. And we always use the example of like a loaded gun, right? Most loan officers, they just take their one magic bullet, whatever it is, the duplex program, whatever he's talking about, they put it in there, they go, bang! And he goes, I'm not interested in that. And you're done, because you're out of ammo. You already shot your bullet, it's out of the chamber, and you're defenseless. The best way to do it, and when I met Dylan and how we started our relationship, is value has to be defined by your referral source, what they think is valuable. And when you meet them, you're not gonna know, because it's a different answer to everybody, right? And what you need to be willing to do is to have the conversation, and while you're having the conversation and you're unlocking these challenges they're having, and you have solutions, don't just go with the solution then. You're just filling up your magazine with everything that with your realtor says. Every problem they have is another bullet you can fire, right? And you just got to come up with solutions for what they cause, what they think is an issue. And a great story, when I met Dylan, I started providing value to his team, and one of the ways that I started doing that didn't work for him, right? He was, he thought I was like kind of overstepped, but it's so much easier for me to say, hey, I just figured this is what you wanted. It wasn't an awkward moment or anything like that. It was just, you have to be willing to be bold. And I was just being bold and bold and bold and seeing what worked and what wasn't, instead of, taking the position of, well, I sure hope Dylan can define for me, and this is where so many people make a mistake when they're trying to do this, is how can I be valuable to you? If he knew, he would just do it. So you got to be able to kind of like conceptualize that.
So what is the better question? Do you remember the question that you asked? Because I love this question. To find out what is valuable to me.
Well, I asked a million questions, so you
okay.
can say it.
Well, so here's here's the magic bullet. The magic bullet question you got to ask.
Get your pens up. This is really good.
What are your biggest challenges?
Yep.
Right. So when Kevin asked me what my biggest challenges were, and I always have lots of challenges, no matter where we're at in the business cycle. I'm never gonna say, well, my biggest challenge is finding non-QM investor loans that are, don't need an appraisal. I mean, like, I'm never ever gonna say that, because that is not a big challenge. Or my biggest challenge are getting the agents to call the leads that we currently have and work them in a quality manner, right? My biggest challenge is building long-term follow-up programs that will convert our leads over the course of the next 3 years, because they're not ready to buy today. Like, these are the tactical challenges that we face as real estate agents on a daily basis. And I could go on for 2 hours about challenges that we have, and that's all the notes that Kevin and a smart LO is going to take down. And you may not have the answers right there at that moment, but you might have a smart guy that's worked with somebody like me before that you can go ask and say, hey, I just met with this guy and he told me all these challenges. Do you have any ideas on how I can solve them for him? And then when you come back to me and you say, hey, how about we try this? How about I call your agents on Tuesdays and ask them about their lead follow-up programs and become an accountability partner in your business from a third-party source to help agents get motivated and stay disciplined about the things that they got to do. And I'm like, well, yeah, we can do that. That makes a lot of sense. That does help me a lot.
And if you're a new loan officer and you're listening to this and you're saying, oh my God, how am I ever going to figure that out? Like, it's like, remember, he runs the biggest team in the state of Hawaii. It's going to be very difficult to satisfy a guy like Dylan's needs, first meeting, first time trying these tactics. These tactics work at a smaller level too.
Absolutely.
The basic agent that's just struggling to figure out how to conduct an open house effectively, and remember, not a lot of agents get great support like the support that Dylan's team offers. A lot of them are just fly fishing in the rapids with no map, no knowledge, local knowledge of what kind of fish are there. And if anything you can do to show you're shoulder to shoulder with them in the trenches is going to be a win and set you up for success.
And I guess I'll close with this story to kind of illustrate this, right? Because again, I want to bring it back down to a level everybody can relate to. Is Kevin always compliments my first loan officer on training me the right way, and that's what made me see and have my eyes open to the things that we're doing today. And this is why it's important to have the right people around you in the beginning. But the loan officer that I inherited from my mom, who I was very blessed, her name's Ronnie Strickler. She's retired now, but I think about her constantly and has a huge influence on our business and our life. She was a value add to my business from the very beginning. She took the time when I was a brand new agent to sit me down and talk to me about the loan process and what she does with clients. Very rarely did she tell me about loan programs, because one of her golden rules of advice was, you stay in your lane, you do real estate, I'll stay in my lane, I'll do loans. There's going to be a little bit of crossover, but you don't have to learn how to be a loan officer, and I don't want to learn how to be a realtor. We do our jobs together, we're talking all the time, we're going to be successful. And I was like, that's great, because I don't have to know what's the maximum down payment that an FHA loan, allows. I still don't know that. I have no idea, and I don't ever want to learn, because that's his job to figure that stuff out and advise the clients in the right thing that they need to do. But she also forced me at 10 a.m. every Tuesday to get on the phone with her, and we would review what leads I've sent her, what status they're in, if she talked to somebody that maybe I haven't talked to in a while. And it would be a 10 or 15 minute conversation, but it created discipline and structure in my world, where I knew that Ronnie was going to be on the phone every Tuesday at 10 a.m. and we would do a little discussion back and forth. And that created a ton of value, where she was helping follow up, I was helping follow up. We would strategize. Hey, I talked to this person, but they went dark on me. And she's like, oh, they just submitted W-2s. We should follow up with them. And it was that's little tactical advice that really you need to go find your partner that you vibe with, that you're on the same wavelength with, and figure these processes out, because that's what's going to amplify both of your ability to take your business to the next level, is having somebody, not just a realtor partner, but a lending partner. And I think that's been a huge benefit that we've just scaled up to a much larger level.
Yeah, agreed. Awesome.
All right, any final thoughts, man?
No, I think if you're looking to learn more about any of the stuff we talked about, if I brought up any terms or anything you'd like further descriptions of, or you want to argue with me over why this is or isn't the best way to do business, always happy. All our contact info should be below here, below the video. If you got questions on how EXP works, or how Dylan's team works, obviously you can set up some time, talk to him on his calendar. But both of us are available to coach the industry. The industry has given so much to me in my life, and so much to Dylan in his life. It's the least we could do to give back to other participants, and make sure that we're doing our part to help everybody be as successful as they can.
That's probably one of the most important things that we agree upon, is when you've been blessed, you have to be a blessing to others. And that's definitely, I know at least once a week, usually multiple times a week, I have a one-on-one conversation like this with an agent and dig into their specific business and try and help them and coach them and figure out what their solutions are to their pain points. And I know Kevin does the same on the loan side. I've actually seen him do it. People in our market that are technically his competition, which is I very much, we buy into that abundance mindset. And so take advantage of that, because there's not enough people. If there's nobody in your market or in your office that is of that mindset, reach out. We're just a phone call away, and easy to get a hold of on socials or on YouTube. So right on, man. Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate you guys. Aloha.
Aloha.